Hi everyone, it's Mr Toomey here from Tees Valley Music Service. I'm here today to demonstrate the three instruments that I play and teach, and to see if any of you would like to play one of these great instruments. The saxophone, the clarinet, and the flute. Okay. All these instruments are in the woodwind family, and they look and sound very different. Now, the most important thing about taking up any instrument is that you like the sound that it produces. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to play them all, and I want you to just listen very quietly and carefully, and at the end of each tune I'll tell you the title in case you didn't know what it was. Okay, if you didn't already know, that one's called the Pink Panther. Okay, so that is called Star Wars, a theme from Star Wars. I'm sure most of you recognise the Star Wars theme. Alright, so that was, I think you all know that one, that was the theme from Harry Potter called Hedwig's Theme, the main theme. Okay, so it's Harry Potter, Star Wars, and the first one was the Pink Panther. The instruments all have their own character of sound, don't they? They all sound differently. You might like to try and describe the sounds yourself. I think of the saxophone as loud and punchy, clarinet as mellow and woody, and the flute as pure and high-pitched, but you might think of other descriptive words for those sounds. The saxophone, if you look at it carefully, is mainly brass, and some people mistake it for a brass instrument because of its looking mainly brass, but really, if you look at the top here, this is what makes it into a woodwind instrument. It's got a reed just there, and that's a wooden reed, and that vibrates when it's in your mouth, vibrates and makes the sound. And you press these keys down, there's no holes to cover, just keys, and this makes the different notes. Saxophones all come in different sizes. This is the alto saxophone, and it's the best size for the beginner. It's obviously a lot bigger and heavier than the flute or the clarinet, and it does need fairly large hands, especially for, if you can notice these side keys that stick out. You've got to have a certain size of hand when you play the saxophone. So it's the ideal instrument for, say, someone in year 5 or 6 to start. They're normally big enough in year 5 and 6. But the younger children, they may be able to start on the saxophone if they've got big hands. Now the clarinet is usually made of wood, and this is made out of wood. And again, if you recognise there, we've got a single reed. It's a single reed instrument. That's what makes the sound. The reed vibrates in your mouth when you play it. So that's got a lot in common with the saxophone. The saxophone and clarinet both have single reeds, and that's how they make the sound. And the main difference is that the clarinet, you have to cover these holes. Now this is your standard B flat clarinet. These holes, especially at the bottom, are quite big. So someone with little thin fingers might find that difficult to cover these lower notes. The beginner instruments are made out of a lighter plastic, so they're much lighter. If you do have smaller hands and you can't manage a full-size clarinet, there is such a thing as a clarineo, which is a much smaller instrument, about this size. And most children from year 3 and upwards can start lessons on the clarineo. The next one is the flute. Now you might think, well, this is metal as well, isn't it? Why is this in the woodwind family? It's because of this. This is how it produces the sound. It's a bit like blowing over the top of a bottle, and you blow across the hole and it makes the sound of the flute. The original flutes, earlier flutes, were made out of wood and they didn't have any keys. So they were just holes to cover. But this one, and most modern flutes, are made out of silver plating or solid silver, or even solid gold. Modern flutes have keys to press down. This is a special type of modern flute. It's called an open hole flute. But normally those holes aren't there, so you don't have any holes to cover, so the size of your fingers doesn't really matter that much. So most, say, children in year 5 and 6 could start on a standard flute in C. That's this one here, because it is quite a stretch. If you look when I'm holding it, you hold it at the side like that. Now if you've got smaller arms, you might be better going for something called a curved head joint flute. So if you can imagine this part of the flute, this top bit here, it's called the head joint. You can imagine that curled round like that, and then that would mean you'd be playing about here, which is much more comfortable for smaller children. Say year 3 and 4, we would normally have a curved head joint, so it makes it much easier to hold and less tiring. These instruments are all band instruments, so they're ideal for playing in bands. There's wind bands, jazz bands, orchestras, etc. And TVMS, Tees Valley Music Service, have lots of different bands you can join. Even if you're a beginner or you're more advanced, you can join a band. And this all comes as a package once you have lessons. Joining a band sounds a bit scary to most people at first, but it's actually quite fun and challenging. And you can also, you meet new friends, and it's very social, and it's sort of like being part of a team, really. It's like a team sport, if you think of it that way. As well as being big enough to play them, you have to have your top front 2 teeth and the bottom 2 teeth. Also, your parents don't have to buy an instrument because they can hire one from Tees Valley Music Service at a lot less cost than you would normally. The lessons are normally every week for half an hour. You need to practice your instrument regularly at home. Ideally practice it every day, because otherwise it goes very slowly, the progress slows down, and then it gets a bit boring. So to keep the progress going, you have to keep practicing. If your parents are happy for you to start lessons, then they can enrol online on the website, Tees Valley Music website, or phone Tees Valley Music Service up. I hope that's been a bit of fun and a bit different for today. I'd like to thank the school and the teachers for helping to organise this presentation, and all of you for watching this video demonstration today. Hope it has been interesting and hopefully inspired you to take up one of these great instruments and to get involved in making music. So that's all for now. Bye for now.